We welcome you into the season preview looking at Carlow women's basketball for the 2024-2025 campaign. Sean Meyers of the Carlow Sports Network. Dave Gordon, the head coach for the Celtics. First off, good to talk to you again. How's everything been with you?
Going well, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Excited for another season. I know you've already got a victory under your belt, but first let's look at last season. So, team was 500 in its first year in a new conference in the AMCC, just below 500 overall. So, how did you evaluate how last year went?
We kind of evaluate as an average season, man. We set our goals to say, we wanted 15 to 20 wins, and 15 was on that low end, so we didn't quite make that. So we call it an average season. This year, we're looking to get to that 20 win.
Well, I mentioned the 9-9 mark in the new conference. You went from the RSC, the River States Conference, to the AMCC, NAIA to NCAA. What was notable about that change and that transition?
Well, I think it was the travel, the lack of travel. We were able to get a little bit more rest before going into games. We were able to spend some more time on film opposed to being on the bus, traveling. So I think the biggest thing was rest. So we were able to see our girls were able to kind of save their legs a little bit more. So,
I know you said you wanted to improve upon last year's mark. So to do that, I'm sure there was a lot of work put in throughout the off season. What were the areas of focus to how you would get better?
oh man, we went out and just recruited, man. We wanted to, our main focus was increasing our depth and bench points. Last year, I think we averaged about 5 bench points. So we wanted to increase that. So we went and brought in about 5 freshmen. Also, we wanted to get more points in the paint and actually defend a little bit better in the paint. So we went and brought in the grad transfer for that as well to anchor down our defense. So.
I mentioned you've already got one in the win column this year, the season opener against Apprentice at home. What stood out about your team's performance? What were the takeaways?
Their maturity, man. We were very mature. I mean, I guess starting, our juniors and seniors, and they've been with me for now 3 years and some of them four. They were just mature. So when they went on a run, they played their little zone a little bit. Years past, we would panic a little bit, we would force shots. Instead, this time we kind of moved the ball and we took the next best shot.
You graduated about a handful of players from last year, including some pretty notable contributors who had been multi-year starters or bench players for you. What are you going to miss most about that group? What will your memories be?
Well, it's their spirit, man. That was a very spirited group, and then their versatility on the court. Like you take someone like Jada Bass, who she was able to help us. She was our joker last year, where she was able to play the 3 through 5 for us. So she was able to spell us minutes, and she was also a major communicator for us. You take someone like Elena Butler. She was our speed to help us with our guards up top, and she created a lot of havoc on the perimeter with her steals and her speed. Then you take like Bree. Evans, she anchored down the post for us, being undersized, and she was a major communicator. She actually connected us a lot on the court and off the court. So I miss those things about her.
Looking at who you have back, who are the key returners and what are the expectations from that group?
The key returners is mainly the whole team, man. I mean, I got a top six when you look at Sydney Carr, Shaelyn Clark, Emily Hill Gardner, Emma Aubrey, Imari Stinnett, and then when you add Nina Cato, I think I expect all of them to step up and do a lot more. They already been showing that. When you take someone like Sydney Carr, she's already been, stuffing the stats, not only just scoring, but with her defense, with her court vision and her assists. So.
What expectations do you have for the newcomers, whether they be transfers or freshmen here for the first time on campus?
To pick up this game and contribute, man. And I think we're already seeing that. Like game one, you see like Nina Cato doing real well, holding down the middle. You see Josie Horn coming in, Gia Rosa still coming in with her perimeter defense and Lexi Berger. So they're already doing it. They're just expect them to keep growing and keep contributing.
Let's talk about the goals for this year. I know you've already said in terms of the wins you want to have an uptick, but what do you have in mind for what this team can accomplish?
Well, I want to actually win the USCAAs and make the playoffs. So win the USCAA and make the playoffs. But I think our realistic goal is to win 20 games. Actually, we want to have an undefeated home record, and we want to finish on top of the AMCC.
Well, talking about the AMCC, how do you evaluate the landscape? Who are some teams maybe to keep an eye on?
The landscape at AMCC is tough, man. I mean, when you look at the teams to keep an eye on, of course, you got Penn State Barron, who they're the reigning champs. You got LaRoche, who just lost one game in 4 years. So those are two top teams that you want to keep an eye on. But I would honestly say all of them. We didn't have the best February last year. I think we went 1-6, 1-5, or something like that. Kind of had a nice little collapse. So we're gonna keep our eye on all of them. So we can't take nobody for granted.
What were the objectives with the non-conference schedule this year?
The objectives was just to get good competition so we can grow as a team. So we wanted to play teams, one that, that was good talent, good competition, and that was close enough so that we can, get multiple games in a week. That was mainly it. We just kind of wanted closer teams, just to closer teams that we can compete with.
Let's talk about your assistant coach's responsibilities, best qualities when you think of your right-hand man.
Uh, when I think of Daryl Harrington, his best qualities is he's always punctual and is his enthusiasm. Daryl's a very, he's a very focused individual. One of his responsibilities that we do is he does a lot of the scouting, game day prep, and in-game adjustments for us. So he's always kind of charting, what the defense is doing to us and what we can do to the defense, our opponent. When we talk about my son, he's doing like a lot of director of basketball operations. He's doing a lot of, when we're on the road, kind of on road management, and social media. So that's their main responsibilities. And he's kind of like the character coach for the girls, so whatever they can't say to me, they can say it to him and take it out on him.
I like how you added that part in. Lastly, fill in the blank. This will be a successful season for Carlo if
If we stay connected, we communicate well, and we compete at the highest level, and that will equal consistency and credibility.
hopefully it'll be a great season indeed. Dave, thanks for doing this again. Always enjoy talking to you. That means it's time to get ready for some
Yes, it is.
basketball.
Yes, it is.
That is Dave Gordon, the head coach of the Celtics, right here on the season preview. We continue here on the season preview, looking at Carlow women's basketball for the 24-25 season. Sean Meyers joined by a senior, Emma Aubrey. How's everything going with you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm sure you're very excited to have this season underway. Your final season now as a senior. Looking back at your time at Carlow, how have you grown as a player throughout your tenure?
Well, I've definitely like grown as a player. Skill wise for sure. I've gotten a lot stronger as a player. I've also, I think, grown in like a leadership role as well.
Well, maybe you just spoke to it a little bit. What were some areas that you tried to improve upon throughout this offseason heading into the year?
Oh, for sure. I definitely worked a little bit more on like my offensive like handles and stuff like that. Kept my shooting ups, as well as getting just a little bit better defender as well.
Well, I know you've had some really good seasons during your time at Carlow. Let's look at what teammate you think might have a breakthrough season this year.
Yeah, for sure. We've definitely gained a lot of really promising freshmen this year, and I think that Josie will have a really, really great year. Josie Horn, she kind of came back a little bit from an injury in the preseason, but she's been looking really good in our past game and our past scrimmages as well.
Let's focus on the goals this year. What do you have in mind for yourself and then collectively for the Celtics?
Well, for myself, I'd really like to be first team AMCC like All American. I was rewarded second team All American USCAA last year, so I think that would be a great goal for me. For our team, I definitely like want to make the USCAs again. I want us to go a lot farther than that, and also like win probably like at least 15 games.
Let's talk about your head coach, Dave Gordon, now in his third year. What do you like most about him? What are his best qualities?
Oh, I love that Coach Dave is super positive. He's always like during game days, he's always super upbeat, dancing on the sidelines, and it just it's a really great he creates a really great environment to play.
So you've seen different versions of the Celtics now throughout your time. This 24-25 edition of Carlow, what do you think makes this year's team special?
Oh, I mean, I think our chemistry is just a lot better than it just has been in like the past few seasons. I really love the energy that the freshmen have brought, and also grad student Nina. She's also brought some really great energy as well.
Well, hopefully it leads to a terrific season. Emma, thanks again for doing this. We always appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That is Emma Aubrey, a senior for the Celtics here on the season preview. We roll along here on the season preview looking at Carlow women's basketball. Sean Meyers joined by Shaelyn Clark, a senior for the Celtics. How's everything been with you?
Very good, very good. Very excited for the season.
I'm sure you are. It's always an exciting time for both players and broadcasters alike. Well, looking at this season and looking at your career as a whole at Carlow, what do you think your best qualities are as a player?
Coach always says it. A lot of people in our organization say it as far as like accountability. I'm very big on being able to kind of pick out what we can improve on as a team and even some of the little stuff in practice. I just think I'm very vocal as a leader, and I just like to hold us accountable. So that's kind of one of my big attributes that way.
I know you were around during the NAIA days playing in the River States Conference, and then last year the transition to the NCAA and Division III and the AMCC. So, what were the big positives of making that transition?
I just think kind of playing a little bit to our competition level. I think a lot of times, I mean, you look at the NAIA, and those are just like, I mean, we're a very small school. I don't, 1,000, 2,000 kids, not very many at all. And we're playing these 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, like schools with D1 transfers and everything. It's like, I just think we're a little bit out of our depth. And transferring to the AMCC, we just have a lot better competition level. And I think it makes things competitive, which is what it's all about.
And a lot more local teams. I'm guessing last year you probably went against some players that maybe you knew from the high school level, right?
Yeah, absolutely. High school AAU. You're playing girls that you're playing girls that you've played with before. So,
Well, you're one of the upperclassmen as a senior, but when you look at the newcomers, the freshmen or the transfers, who do you think is going to make a big impact?
I definitely think Nina. She's a huge gain for us. Back to having a big on our side. Last year we were very much guard focused. We didn't have a lot in the post at all, so it was a lot on the guard's shoulders, and we didn't have a lot of height, and that kind of hurt us a little bit, I think, in some games. Um, Also, Josie, as a freshman, she has proved every scrimmage that she's went into, she's just come at it with so much enthusiasm, and she comes right off the bench and makes a play, and that's really like what we need.
Based on your first answer, I'm guessing you're one of the leaders on this team. Who else do you see as players who are kind of going to be focal points in the locker room?
Absolutely. Sydney Carr steps up a lot as far I said how vocal I am. We kind of bounce off each other in that aspect. We back each other up, and I think that's important on a team to have everybody on the same page, as well as Emily Hillgardner. I mean, she steps up in a big way, I think, on the court a lot of times. She's the first one on the floor. She's a very physical player, and I think that's really important to look to as well. When you're in the time of need and you see one of your starters that plays 30 minutes a game dive on the ground for another ball. I think that's really important for momentum and everything as well.
Let's talk about objectives for this upcoming season. What do you have in mind for yourself and for the team?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Dave has said it. I think we have a shot at the conference. I think we have a shot at going far in the playoffs. We made a little bit of a run at it last year. We were 9-9. I think that coming into a new conference it's a very positive thing to look at as far as numbers. Like we have a chance at it, and I think just gaining a big this year, gaining some eager freshmen, gaining some bench points, I think was huge for us. So I'm really excited.
So, looking at your career as a whole with the Celtics, is there a particular moment that stands above the rest?
I just think our transition from coaching staff, in my opinion, I think was huge because we got a coach that kind of gave us some light. I feel like Carlow has a little bit of a losing streak to it, and I think that relays to coaching staff at some points. And I think getting a new coach, he like came in and he uplifted us and told us that we were capable and stuff. And I think that's something that we were lacking in the past. And I think that's made a huge difference. And it's given me hope for the rest of my career that, we can win some games and we're capable. So
Certainly, Dave Gordon, a very positive guy in my experiences with him. Lastly, what do you like most about being here at Carlow?
again, going back to just that close knitness, I guess, of Carlow, like you have a little bit of a community here, and as far as the athletics point of view, that's the same thing. It's a little bit of a community, and Coach Dave has made us like able to play on our strengths. I think like he hasn't made any single player have to do it all, and every single player has a strength, and he lets us play to that, and that's part of our game and part of what makes us hard to play with for some teams and gives people problems because we put people in specific positions that are their strengths. So
Well, hopefully, we see a lot of those strengths all throughout the season and a very successful one at that. Shaelyn, thanks for doing this.
thank you.
That is Shaelyn Clark, a senior for the Celtics, here on the season preview.